Hello Facebookers and welcome to Pride in London Live. Now commiserations because it's the last in the series. I'm just going to fan myself here before I get too emotional, but do not fear. I know I'm wearing celebratory orange, which means I'm not going to get my miniature violin out and we are not going to mourn. We've got plenty to celebrate because it is 3 sleeps until Pride and I have a wonderful panel here. We've got the Metropolitan Police, we've got Pride in London, we've got cabaret singers. I know it's an eclectic party list of people, but they are all experts in their field. So first of all, let's shoot across to our brilliant panel. We've got Siobhan and Steve here. Hello, welcome. Both from Pride in London, both wearing the merch today as well, I can see. Look at it, wearing the brand. So guys, obviously we are planning a party here for 1 million people in the centre of London. It sounds like a logistical nightmare. I don't want to put a downer on it, but how does one do that? Are there sleepless nights?
I'd like to say there's no sleepless nights until Pride in London's finished. Thanks very much. We just start really early, right? We start really early. We've got a fantastic team. We work with some great people. We work with the Mayor of London. We work with Westminster. And we think really early on, what can we do to put on an amazing party that represents everyone in the community? And then we get some spreadsheets out and start planning.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there just sort of like highlighter pen and like grids all over your house? Is that now what the living room floor looks like?
And all year round. I mean, we start planning Pride for next year. We start planning that as soon as this one's finished, and it never stops.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, because obviously, for those of us that just rock up to the party willy-nilly at the end, that's not what happens with you guys. How much planning goes into this? Because it's quite interesting for people who are not part of it. Is it a year-long event?
There's about 150 people who work for Pride all year round, and up to 1,000 on the day. But we still need more volunteers. So prideinlondon.org/volunteer. We can still get you in. We can still use you on the day. But that team all year round in 8 different teams, all doing huge amounts of work, because Pride wouldn't happen without those people.
And how do you possibly organise all of those volunteers? Because obviously you've got an army of people. If you do even manage to do that, how does it work?
Okay, so imagine a normal company, a normal organisation, we manage it in the same way. So let's say you've got, but with a few additions. So we've got like a finance team, a legal team, a marketing team. We've also got a community engagement team. So we're doing the right things for that LGBT community. We've also got a fundraising and sponsorship team that bring us in all that money that we need to put on that event. And we make sure we love and nurture everyone. So I came in as a volunteer on the ground about 6 years ago and found myself here, and it's been a privilege to be able to be part of that.
Now, what are the highlights? Because I think the thing about Pride is it is amazing, but it can be a bit overwhelming if you sort of look at the website. There's so many different things, but are there any top picks? Is there any, without upsetting anybody, is there anything we should be particularly heading towards?
I think the thing you have to see is the parade, first of all. Actually, my first Pride was 20 years ago today, and it was London Pride.
Do you not look old enough?
I know. And it was, and the parade is amazing. It's a spectacle. There's just so much going on, and then it takes you to Trafalgar Square, and into Soho for the other stages, and for there's just entertainment. There's things going on everywhere. It is pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of people around, but it's always very happy and joyous. And if you just stand still, you'll just get moved along. You'll just get carried along by people. So it's just go and see it all if you're coming for the first time.
Now, obviously, everybody wants to feel included and invited. How do you go about making everybody feel welcome? Because it's all about inclusion, but it's difficult because sometimes people don't always feel like they are welcome.
It's really tough, actually, Minnie. So we have people coming for all manner of reasons from all elements of the community. So you've got people coming along who want to campaign, and that's right. And we can't forget the people who've stood in front of us, who've made those stepping stones of history to be where we are today. There's also people who want to stand up and celebrate, and the celebration is their protest, and we kind of have to be everything for everyone. So come along, we'll try and cover everything. So I would say come along, as Steve said, watch the parade, you'll see all manner of diversity within that, and it's a tremendous celebration. But this year we've also got the new and improved women's stage in Leicester Square. So in response to things like the Women's March this year, we felt we couldn't fit everyone still in Soho. Come along to Leicester Square and enjoy that. We've got the community stalls in Soho Square. We've got the family area in Golden Square. It's a great tip is that bar is very short, but also go along. There's some incredible minions there, rainbow face painting, all that kind of stuff. Then of course got the cabaret stage in Dean Street, Trafalgar Square, and then once you've enjoyed all of that, go along on Sunday as well.
You're going to be so busy, you're going to be rushed off your feet. Now, actually, interestingly, I've had quite a lot of straight friends saying, I want to come to Pride. Is that okay? Would that be weird? So, I mean, what is the message from Pride in London on that? Because everybody should be invited, right?
And everybody is invited. And you see lots of people. You see families coming with children, old people. I've had an email today from somebody asking if it's okay to bring an 85-year-old to Pride. Everybody's welcome at Pride. Just come and enjoy.
Do you think we're going to have any proposals this year? Because we've had some proposals last year in the street. What were you looking? Do you think love could really happen here?
I mean, well, undoubtedly there will be some form of love happening all across the parade. So last year we had the police proposal. I think it's a great place to come together and meet people. You might set out on a journey where you do get married further down the line, and I just say, come along, enjoy it. There might be some proposals, there might be some other kind of activities going on as well, but there is celebration throughout.
Now, you always get some cynical people who say, why do we still need Pride? A bit like people who say, why do we need a women's march? Why do we still need Pride? Presumably we've come a long way.
We have come a long way, but if you look at the hate crime statistics that we published recently, lots of LGBT Londoners are experiencing hate crime really often. We've still got things like Orlando, we've got LGBT people being rounded up in Chechnya. It's actually really important. Pride is still a protest, it's also a celebration. And it's really important that we have this event to show solidarity for people around the world. There will be people in Uganda watching our Pride event on the internet, and it's a real show of support from London to the rest of the world.
And just finally, if people are sitting at home and thinking they'd still like to get involved in volunteering, what kind of things can they do and how can they help?
So there's volunteers that we need on the day. So you could be part as a parade steward, you could be part of a team in Leicester Square helping people enjoy that space. You could be a fundraiser on the day. Or you might say, you know what, I just want to have this as a stepping stone, perhaps being a social media team or whatever later in the year.
Guys, thank you very much for joining me. We're going to come back to some of you later, but now we're going to talk to the police. So, of course, this is a major event in London. 1 million people will attend, which means, of course, security is going to be heightened. Of course, you're going to be wondering whether you're going to be safe. We have exactly the person to talk to you about that. She is from the Metropolitan Police. She's not just from the Metropolitan Police, she's a superintendent. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Helen Millichap. Helen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Very smoothly walking in there. I love that.
Wonderful.
Just a side shift. It was very good. It was almost, you should be a dancer. So welcome. Now, obviously, sometimes around these events, it is a big celebration. But in light of things that have happened recently, sometimes people are a bit anxious about these sorts of events. How can you sort of reassure people at home that, what kind of measures are you taking to make it safe?
Well, hopefully I can really reassure people at home. And first, before I go on to a little bit about the security, can I say that for the Met, Pride is as much about participating as it is about policing. This year we have doubled the number of uniformed police officers and staff from the Met within the parade itself. So for us it's about the celebration as well as about the policing event. So as you'd expect, people are anxious, people are concerned given the recent events in London. We do understand that, but I have to say there is no specific intelligence that would lead us to suspect that there is a threat to Pride. Nonetheless, and as you'd expect, we need to plan according to the current context. So people might see some things that are a little different. For example, there will be more officers around. We think that makes total sense to reassure people and just provide a visible presence both at form-up and throughout the parade itself. You will also see some things that you wouldn't have seen last year. Common sense precautionary tactics like some concrete barriers that would prevent a vehicle entering the parade, for example. That's not because we have a particular concern, it just makes total sense to us.
Fantastic. Now, we should, of course, ask you this as well. Obviously, the police often get involved in the parade in many ways. Will you be taking selfies with members of the public? Because that happens a lot on Twitter. We just need to know your policy on that from the get-go.
Absolutely. Our policing stance for Pride, even though I've described some of our measures, is no different from before. Friendly, supportive. I expect officers to be saying hello and having a great time with people as well. That's so important. The ethos of Pride is at the heart of everything we do as police officers, in terms of reacting positively in investigating hate crime, as well as understanding everything that just got described in terms of why we're here and why Pride exists. All really important for us to be supportive of.
Good to know you're pro-selfie. And also what I think people don't realise is that you guys are having quite a lot of conversations behind the scenes, Pride in London and the Metropolitan Police, to make sure that you work together, because obviously this is no small feat, 1 million people in the middle of London. Tell us a bit about how that kind of works without giving away too many secrets.
Yeah, and there's some things we can't say, obviously, and some things that we put in place are not visible to people. But I can assure you, Siobhan and our team have been working closely for months and months. Our command team is a very experienced team that's worked Pride before, and we have a really strong and well-founded relationship. I hope Siobhan would agree with everything I've said just then.
Yeah, so we work really closely with the Met. We also work closely with all the other people who make London safe and great every single day, whether that's the ambulance, the police, Greater London Authority, Westminster. We meet monthly to talk about these things, and we even have a debrief straight away to talk about it. But the police have been so helpful for me in my first year in this role, so big thank you from me as well.
What about people, and the people have said this to me, friends of mine and other people that are anxious about the threat in London and saying, I don't want to go to a big public event like that. You know, some people might just feel like they want to stay at home because they're worried. How can you reassure them?
I can reassure them. I understand why people are worried. London is totally open. People should come and enjoy Pride for the celebration as it is. It shouldn't be about the policing operation. However, there's some basic precautionary things that we must all, you know, whether it's me going about my daily life as well, or whether it's somebody at Pride, alert but not alarmed, making sure that if something bothers you, something doesn't seem quite right, whether it's Pride related or something totally different as people go about their business, please do report it, find a police officer, let us assess it. It could be nothing, but obviously it could be the thing that helps us keep people safe. So I do want people to come, people should not stay away, but alert, and vigilant is the right thing to be. So I'm asking people to do that, but also never let that get in the way of having a great time at Pride.
Now, this year, of course, the Metropolitan Police and many years before has been heavily involved in the parade. But obviously, historically, homophobia has existed. How much are things changing in the police force, do you think?
Oh, I think we've come very far from where we were. We now have community safety units in every borough whose specialism is to investigate hate crime wherever it's reported. Absolutely, it's still underreported. We get that completely. Hopefully, you're starting to see more things that are available for people to report without having necessarily to come to a police station or speak to a police officer. We know there may be a confidence or a trust issue. So there's loads out there, loads of ways that people can report hate crime. The really nice thing about some of the recent research, even though it reported about the increases in people's experiences of hate crime, is that homophobic crime, when reported to the police, the kind of response the police are giving is reported on quite positively, and the respondents were really quite positive about the police response, which is great to hear, and I hope that encourages people to continue reporting to us.
And just finally, last year we had the wonderful police proposal on the street, which made everybody cry. You'd have to be dead inside not to cry. Do you have any intelligence on whether there'll be any more police proposals?
I could not possibly say.
I hope that means maybe there will be. We look forward to this. Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to come back to you guys in a bit at the end, but now we're going to be talking about the actual party and the parade. And to do that, we have two Michaels in the house who are going to be doing that, a double act. So we'll be talking about all of the brilliant things that you can get involved in. And actually, if you want to get involved today online, just head to our Facebook page, Pride in London, and remember the hashtag is Love Happens Here, and we can all have a conversation. So if you want to talk to any of our guests, all you need to do is get on Twitter, get on Facebook, you can send us your questions, and by the magic of technology, I can just pick them up here and read them. But remember, it's a family show, so no rude gags. We only want, PC comments on there, but we look forward to hearing from you. Hello, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Very good, yeah.
You look wonderful.
Oh, this old thing.
Do you feel upstaged? I feel totally upstaged.
Didn't get the memo about.
No, and as the host, I'm distressed.
Well, it's celebratory orange again.
You look amazing. You look fantastic. So let's just introduce you to people that might not know. So we've got Michael Bryant here and Michael Twaite. Parade manager and cabaret artist.
Yes.
And icon.
Well, of course.
Now, obviously, we've talked a lot about the serious side of the security, but let's talk about the fun now, because Pride is really fun as well. How do you organise the fun? Organised fun is not always fun, of course, but you have to organise it. There's so many people there. How do you do that?
Further to what Siobhan said, the parade team has been in place. So the parade team is myself and my colleague Rob. We're the two parade managers, and we've been organising the parade since about December of last year. And back in January, we opened applications, so any group could apply to be in the parade, and we had a tremendous response. So we've been planning it ever since then.
And of course, you're going to be presenting at Trafalgar Square.
I am, yes.
Am I right? So how are you feeling about that? Because obviously, it's a nerve-wracking. I'm going to be presenting, so it's going to be a nerve-wracking experience. Have you got any good gags lined up? How does it all work?
I wish I did have gags lined up, but
Yeah.
that's not how it works, sadly. You get 30 seconds, get on, get off, bring the next person on. You can never prepare to be in front of an audience like that. It's a crazy experience. You just need to know who you're bringing on, who they are, and just check the crowd are having an amazing time, which they always are.
Yeah, how proud a moment is it though? Because we all kind of sometimes band around the word pride, isn't it? But actually, to stand there at Trafalgar Square as part of the community and represent people, it must be. Tell us about how that feels.
It's hugely humbling. I mean, especially as a cabaret performer, I'm used to performing in bars and clubs, 100 to maybe 300 people, to stand there, Trafalgar Square, 15,000+ people, and to be bringing on such huge names. It's not that you're working with people that you work with all the time. We're bringing on international stars. This year we've got Oscar winners, Olivier Award winners, international acts. It's crazy.
Do you know what you're going to wear?
I'm going to basically wear almost everything in my wardrobe. My job on the day is basically, as soon as they need someone to fill a couple of moments doing a bit of an intro, up you get. So all the time backstage, I'm working through the wardrobe.
Michael, back to the parade. I mean, as we were saying earlier, you know, there's so many things to do. You can feel a little bit overwhelmed, like a kind of kid in a sweet shop. How does anybody sort of navigate around? We've got the app, obviously. I don't want to do a clunky promo for the app, but we've got the app. It's available. Is that a good thing to be looking at, do you think?
It is, yes, and I think the Pride in London website also has useful information about if you want to watch the parade. So the parade starts, parade form-up is at Portland Place, which is near where the BBC is, and then the parade route goes down Regent Street, goes towards Piccadilly Circus, down through there, and then ends in Whitehall. So there's some fantastic places to watch the parade along the route. The bottom of Regent Street is a very good place to watch the parade, doesn't tend to be that busy. We've also got St James Street as well, which is quite good to watch the parade. One thing I would say, if you are planning to come and watch, avoid watching near a tube station. Saturday in London, tube stations are busy anyway. They're going to be even more busier this Saturday, so we would suggest avoiding a tube station. And we've also got this year for the first time a grandstand, so people can buy tickets, go and sit in the grandstand seating, get a fantastic view of the parade and really enjoy the atmosphere from there. And more details are on the website.
And for people that have never been to Pride before, can they just join the parade, or do they have to be officially signed up? How does it work for people at home?
No, so groups have to apply to be in the parade. So we opened applications in January, and then groups applied to be in the parade. They are then reviewed by our Community Advisory Board, and then once given approval, we then send them details about being in the parade. So we've got some fantastic groups this year. We've got Opening Doors London, we've got sports groups like Out to Swim and Gosling's Badminton, we've got corporate groups like Barclays and Tesco's, we've got charities like Cancer Research. So there's a huge mix of groups in the parade. But no, all of those groups are part of groups that have applied to be in the parade and have been given a wristband to get into the form-up area.
So obviously there's a lot of fun going on, but sometimes there's a criticism, you know, that it gets really corporate when you've got all these different kind of company floats. But what's your argument in terms of that? Because is it a corporate event or is it still a big party?
No, it's not a corporate event at all. It's still a big party. Our job is to provide a platform for groups to apply to be in the parade. We don't have quotas or limits about different types of groups. And actually sponsors only make up about 10% of the parade. Over 60% are non-profit, community and charity groups. So it really is open to everybody.
And how do you make sure that everybody is represented? Because obviously, you know, this is all about including everybody, but that is a minefield in many ways when you're organising something, because you need to make sure that everybody is included. How do you go about that? Is it just first come, first serve? Do you look at it and kind of look at the quotas and map out the diversity? How does it work?
We don't have set quotas. Applications opened in January. We said they would close at the end of April. Groups were welcome to apply at any time between then. We published that the applications was open through the various social media channels. This year we've seen a huge increase in demand for the parade. We actually reached full capacity in March, so we had to start a waiting list, but through working closely with the police and all the relevant agencies, we were able to get more people into the parade. We also asked a lot of the groups already applied if they could reduce their numbers, and we had a lot of the sponsors as well actually reduced numbers, gave wristbands back, so we could then give them out to groups in the parade.
Okay, so we're just going to pause there too, Michaels, while we see what our viewers have to say. We've got hopefully some questions for you when I work out how to turn it on, which is going to be there. There you go. So everybody's been commenting online, so we want to hear what you have to say, and we can read them now. Here we go. So just while that fires up, if you do want to comment, all you need to do is go to our Facebook page and you can just ask the panellists the questions that you would like answered. So while those are coming in, guys, how can people get involved at this stage? Because obviously it's quite late in the day. If suddenly, you know, you jump into action, if you're a bit like me and realise that you should be doing more, how can people get involved at the last minute? Because some of it's been signed up a long time ago.
Yes, I mean, the parade, participating in the parade is full, but certainly come and watch the parade, go to all of the great events we've got, Trafalgar Square, Golden Square, Soho Square, Leicester Square. We can also use volunteers. We need over 1,000 volunteers on the day. We can still use people even at this late stage. So go to the website, look at the volunteer pages. It's a great way to get involved. That's how I started with Pride in London.
Absolutely. And none of the stages are ticketed. It's all you turn up and there will be space for you. And quite a lot of the stages this year have interactive things, like the family stage at Golden Square has kids karaoke and things. So you can get anyone involved if you want
We've
to.
got to start somewhere, haven't we? If it's karaoke, that's fine. And just finally, do you have any plans for an after party, or will you just be too busy being iconic on stage and organising the whole thing?
I do have plans, yes, but it depends what time the parade finishes.
I see. And yourself?
I'm weighing up a couple of options, but I'm not going to lie. Usually by 8 o'clock, Trafalgar Square has finished. After you've been in front of that audience, there's nowhere you want to be. You just need to go home and just try and believe that just happened.
And in true dramatic fashion, we've just got our iPad back and a few questions for you. They've just flown in via private jet. Okay, so Sam is asking a question for both of you guys here. Why is this year's Pride going to be better than the last? Or is it?
Well,
The only answer is yes.
well, of course it's going to be better than last, but also how do you trump last year? I mean, last year at Trafalgar Square, there was such an electric atmosphere, there was so much going on. This year, I think the head programmer for Pride, Ian Massa-Harris, has really outdone himself with getting a real range of diversity and variety onto every stage, but especially at Trafalgar Square. I mean, we've got 3 headlines acts who is amazing that they are 3 female headline acts, and that's not because of the fact that we were like, oh, we need to programme women. We just got 3 amazing women who we could get in.
That's brilliant. And yourself, what do you
So
think?
from the parade is bigger this year. We're looking at just over 26,000 people in the parade. This year we've got over 100 new groups. So that's groups that have never been in the parade before. And we've got a real diversity, real mix of groups from charities, corporate, non-profit, sports groups, gaming groups, you name it, we've got it. So it's going to be great to watch.
Got a good question for you here from Elizabeth, and thanks for this, Elizabeth. It says, this year would be the first Pride I attend. Well, welcome. And what are the do's and don'ts? I mean, it's minefield. Total minefield.
One of the things, check the weather. The forecast is looking good.
Yeah.
And make sure you dress appropriately. I would suggest comfortable shoes, sunscreen, make sure you've got some water with you. But if you want to watch the parade, get there in good time, find a nice spot, you'll be ready to go.
And on this side of the room, any do's and don'ts?
I think practical shoes is the most important one, which sounds ridiculous, but when you're running between the stages across Soho, cobbled streets, loads of people, just something comfortable. Obviously, you want to look amazing and fabulous.
Yeah.
But,
This
you know,
thing, what about
do
a
it
platform? I thought you'd be a platform person, but no.
Oh, no, I've got proper shoes on.
Right. But you
and
just
then
need for civilians. So for civilians,
when I'm
if you're a
between
civilian and not an
stages.
icon, then please wear sensible shoes. So for the rest of us, it's just a start right shoe. But for you, a platform, I imagine?
Just a sensible heel.
Can we just see those again? Those are wonderful. Look at these, lovely. Thank you very much for joining us. That was brilliant. As I said, you guys can also get involved in the conversation and have your questions read out on air. You just need to go to our Facebook page, and remember the hashtag is Love Happens Here. Now you're probably wondering what this is sometimes all about, other than the parade, other than the party. So let's take a look at a clip now with some extremely famous activists.
I want to talk to you about Pride. What's the importance of Pride now? Obviously, back in the day, it was super political, and it was in order to
And
fight
I think
a lot of battles.
still should be. There
You
are
think?
battles to be won. Yeah.
What battles are we fighting for now?
Well, we want to put our hand in the back of politicians who are weak on the subject, like the current Prime Minister, and make sure that our embassies abroad are sticking up for gay people who live in those countries, as well as the gay members of staff, and they are doing that. But I think that politically, and just as a simple matter of common sense of being nice to each other, that a young person or an old person, confused about themselves or lonely or feeling that they don't belong, can just see all these people
I feel connected.
enjoying themselves, in half of them with their clothes off, half of them with their clothes on, sometimes with their dogs, sometimes with their kids. All humanities there, and they can just feel better about
And I
themselves.
think it's about education as well. Like, I think a local drag queen to us, Betty Buss, she's the most fabulous woman, but is an airport trimmer. She trims planes and lives a man's life, Steve, outside of it. But used to have to get ready in her car with her makeup, run dressed as a man with a full face of drag, knock on a door, open a peephole, say a password. and go in, and she many a time would got beaten up going back to her car by people. That my generation, and especially generation below us, will never know those hardships. And I think it's really important that Pride still celebrates.
Unless, of course, they go to countries where that sort of thing goes on.
Absolutely, of course. But I mean,
Chechnya
here,
and the rest. But
we
here,
need to still make everyone know, and that's why Pride's still important for young people to be involved in. That we still need to fight for our rights. We need to prove that we are equal.
Hello and welcome back to Pride in London live on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. It's last in the series. We're trying to hold it down and not get too emotional. We have got some wonderful guests with us. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about the sense of community. Hello, did you like the swing? It's a bit dramatic. So we've got Jackie Gavin, who's of course a transgender activist, and we've got Ramel Affleck, who's from Pride in London.
I am indeed.
How are you both doing?
Very well, thank you. Very hot. Awesome, very
Yeah,
hot.
you both look very hot. Thank you for joining us. So let's talk a bit about the community, because obviously it's something we've been kind of discussing all evening, but people need to feel part of it, don't they? You know, Pride is one thing, but people need to feel included. What are you particularly looking forward to this year, would you say, in terms of, you know, making everybody feel wanted?
I'm looking to the whole spirit of the actual event. I think Pride is one of these kind of events that brings everybody together, and it's about enjoying that actually spirit and getting everybody into that space. Obviously, we've had a very emotional year this year with a lot of things happening, and I think the whole part of Pride is about bringing that community together into one space.
And particularly the transgender community, there's been a lot of work done in recent years to make that community and our community feel like we're coming together, because that hasn't always been the case, has it? And it still isn't, if we're being honest.
It's not completely there, but I think at the end of the day, we're trying to get into that space, and we need to be in that space together. I think our voice can be much louder, especially if we are together. It's not about being seen to be as that separate person anymore. We need to be together, and I believe that gives us a much more bigger platform together.
And Ramel, how are Pride in London kind of making sure that everybody feels part of the event? Because
yeah, I mean,
it's a difficult thing to navigate sometimes.
It certainly is, and our community is made up of a whole range of people, and we've all got our own issues, and certainly when you start to talk about those issues in an intersectional way, suddenly there's even more to talk about. But for me, Pride really is about visibility. And I think it's really important to remember that although we talk about the global issues, right here in the UK, there are people in our community that aren't having a good time. And for me, the visibility element is really important, because actually, there are elements of our community that don't feel they can come to Pride. And, it's really important that actually, we provide a stage for some of those people that actually can't get there, particularly at a time when hate crime is rising, and there's still huge amounts to work on here in the UK.
Yeah, because there are actually safe spaces, aren't there? So at Pride, we are organising places where people can go if they're not out, or if their community doesn't respect their preferences. So tell us a bit about that.
And I think that's part of it, but I think we unfortunately there will always be people who feel that they can't come to Pride, and for me that's why the visibility element of it is really important. And there's a whole mixture of issues, whether that's issues within the LGBT community itself, and actually unfortunately if we talk about mainstream LGBT spaces, particularly for the trans community, but certainly for people of colour who are also LGBT. For some people, the LGBT community isn't a safe space, and their identity being intersectional means actually that isn't that place that they can go to. And so for me, it's really important that Pride is providing a platform for those people, and to see that happening through our campaign this year has been really important.
Yeah, what kind of things are going on behind the scenes? Because obviously also homophobia can happen from within the community sometimes. Sometimes, people are hating on themselves. So what kind of campaigns have you been running to make sure that, we sort of address that?
Yeah, so particularly the ad campaigns, which if you have a look on our YouTube channel, you can certainly have a look at those, which have picked out on some of the issues. Particularly there's a video that talks about you know, biphobia, that particularly, you know, is something that actually people experience within the community. A lot of people imagine that this is something that we experience when we're in a more mainstream place, like at work or something like that. But actually some of this stuff is happening in some of our LGBT spaces. And I think it was really important that Pride was able to talk about those issues and highlight them. Because quite often, I think for some people who are in a more privileged position, it's very easy to feel like, you know, we've got equal marriage, we've got all these things. You know, I feel like I'm able to speak out, but unfortunately, there are sections of a community that don't feel they can. And so, for me, the more we give those things a platform, the more we can say actually we're representative of our community as a whole.
Yeah, Jackie, just shooting over to you here. Obviously, you know, people don't want to get apathetic, do they? You can start to feel like, you know, because everybody's promoting Pride this year and you've got these big brands and it feels quite mainstream, you need to not get complacent, I imagine.
You should never get complacent. We are always moving forward, and I think the moment you drop it off the agenda, suddenly it can become back to where we are. And again, we've got to get to that point where it's not just seen to be something that happens outside this community. It's got to be very much about focus on internally as well. We need to really, really keep the conversation, or as I like to say, keep the chatter going. If we don't keep that chatter going, that's when suddenly we lose the focus.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think one of the interesting things is that we talked, Steve earlier when he came on talked about getting an email from someone who was 85 years of age and wanted to come to Pride. I think one of the things that's very complex about Pride is not just the intersections of our community, but the difference in age, in the sense that someone who's 18, who's maybe just come out or has a very different experience of what Pride means and where the history comes from and how, you know, and I think, you know, Pride has done its best to encompass all of that, but that was really important. And you know, for me, one of the great things about Pride is just seeing such an array of ages as well, and that's been really important for me. Really.
And particularly with young people, I mean, we're talking about older people, but with young people, there's been specific efforts to kind of make younger people feel welcome. What kind of things are going on to sort of make everybody feel welcome?
I mean, obviously, the main stage is a great place, certainly for the youth of London and the rest of the UK. But for me, you know, some of that is just about the celebratory elements and the evening stuff and the bars that have been supporting what Pride do as well, helping us to promote Pride and provide those spaces afterwards. Because I think, yes, you know, it's about campaigning, it's about those issues, but actually, there is a lot to celebrate, and also, you know, for me, you can't have all of that on your shoulders all of the time. It is sometimes an opportunity to be in that safe space and feel free, as it were, to be who you are.
Well, we can listen to you all day, but thank you very much. We're going to have to wrap it up there, but thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.
Now, we've already heard from so many brilliant panellists today, but if you too want to get involved in the conversation, all you have to do is visit our Facebook page, Pride in London, and remember the hashtag is Love Happens Here. Now, this year, for the first time ever, Pride in London had their own TV adverts on Channel 4. If you haven't seen them, you can take a look now.
It came as quite a shock when you told me that you were gay. I'd lie awake at night wondering what I'd done wrong.
I thought you would deny me my chance of being a grandma. I was angry at you.
I'm not a lesbian, I'm bisexual, you said. I thought you were just attention seeking.
You embarrassed me, and I wasn't gonna get beaten up because you decided to be a girl.
I said some hateful things.
Things that I'm ashamed of.
My little jokes, constantly belittling your sexuality.
And then you left. And that was the worst day of my life.
We never spoke again after that.
I'm sorry I pushed you away when you needed your mom most. I'll never stop loving you.
I want you to know, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I love you, son.
Hello Facebookers and welcome back to the final part of our show. Now, Pride in London of course happens on Saturday, but it's not just that. There has been a 2-week festival and it all wraps up on Sunday with Pride in the Park and UK Black Pride. And here joining us with an absolute dream team from Pride in the Park, we've got Tom and Chloe. Hello guys, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So, you know, it's not just Saturday, is it? Because I think sometimes, you know, you can fixate on the parade and the party, but it's not over yet. There is also a brilliant Pride in the Park. So tell us a bit about that and UK Black Pride.
Well, it's been going on for a number of years, and this year we've joined forces once again with UK Black Pride. And we started a lot earlier this year, so we can add a few new elements as well. We've got a few surprises. One of them is the spoken word tent. Similar to the setup we have here, we're tackling a number of topics of issues in the community, such as sexual health, HIV, religion, 50 years since decriminalisation, that kind of thing. And as usual, we have our dog show, cake show, UK Black Pride stage, Pride in London stage, and we've probably got about 200 performers all together, speakers, hosts. It's huge, and we've been working tirelessly with UK Black Pride for the last few months to deliver, hopefully,
the best
smash
one
last
yet.
year's. Yeah, I think we can.
So you've got 250 performers. How do you manage all those egos? So many divas. This must be difficult.
I actually, because I've been dealing with them and they're all really lovely. I haven't had one diva ego so far, which has been absolutely amazing. So we can squash that bit out.
Wait till Sunday.
Ask me again at 9 o'clock on Sunday evening and I'll have a different conversation.
It'll be a different story.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about everybody feeling like they can be part of this, because also there are specific tents where people can go if they're not out in public. That's a really interesting element that not everybody knows about.
Yeah, so again, like Ramel just said just before, and especially for people of colour, it's maybe a bit more difficult to be out and to feel comfortable. So again, we've carried on the safe spaces. For Sunday, there are a few areas that everyone can go that's away from the beaten track to just enjoy the party as much as everybody else and feel included without being in the forefront, because the whole idea is inclusion. Everyone should be able to take part. You don't actually have to be right in front on the stage.
Because that's the thing, once you are proud and it's all about being quite showy, but for many people in different communities, actually, they're not out and they'd like to be proud, but they're not necessarily.
Exactly.
So is this a time to also remember the people who perhaps can't be as proud as they'd like to be?
Definitely, and what we hope, with the more of a picnic feel, that we will have these spaces. This year we have, like Tom said, we have the dog show, we have Bake with Pride, we also have sports. So there are lots of different things that people can do on the day that aren't necessarily just the stages. You've got the spoken word tent as well, where you can kind of get involved and listen, but actually have your say as well with some of the speakers.
And how competitive does it get with the dog show and the baking? Because it sounds...
It's amazing. Like,
is it?
We started it about 3 years ago, and I just thought, if you dogs show up, it would just add a nice element. And we have about 35, I think, last year. This year, I think we'd have over 50, and it is really competitive. Our categories are Camp is Canine, cutest outfit, that kind of thing. Best lookalike, judge's favourite. So we have to take, because it was all done on the main stage, we have to make sure we have to do it elsewhere because it's just so many dogs.
It's too big. So
dogs, drag queens, glitter, throwing everywhere.
So it's like LGBT crafts, basically.
Basically, yeah.
It's really competitive.
Yeah.
And what kind of other events are going on? If dogs and baking, to be honest, you've covered most bases there.
Yeah.
Dogs and baking, if you don't like those, you just... what are you going to do? But tell us what else is on offer.
Like I said, the spoken word is the one thing we're really excited about. We've got 8 topics during the day, and we've got some speakers most people have heard of. Peter Tatchell, we've got Linda Riley, the LGBT poet laureate Trudy Housen. We've got so many people. It's going to be a really exciting thing, obviously, because Pride's got a lot more political this year. And this is great, but to do it live with audience participation as well, and in the room having frank discussions, which are honestly needed in today's climate, especially in our community.
And just talking about UK Black Pride specifically, it's all part of the same thing, but obviously that is addressing an issue within our community, I imagine.
I think it's great that everybody gets an equal platform, and I guess for me specifically, I am in both houses. I'm Pride in London, but I'm also a person of colour, so it's very important, like Ramel said, that everyone gets their say and everyone gets a chance to celebrate in the way that they want. So we work very much with UK Black Pride, and they have their own stage. We have our own, so it can be really exciting. There's going to be a very big party element on both sides, and so that's the part that I'm most looking forward to, but also running across to the stalls and getting some really good food as well.
Yeah.
So the food's really great. So obviously you guys are experts. This is your mastermind topic. So for anybody who hasn't been to Pride in the Park or UK Black Pride before, what are your top tips on how to just nail the whole thing?
We just show up prepared for a day in the sun, to be fair. Like this Saturday, it's the chances are, hopefully it's going to be hot, find some wood. The chances are it's going to be hot, just bring sun protection, that kind of stuff. Obviously, because of recent events, we are having, the park is going to be a lot more secure this year. So for the first time, we have got barriers around the park as well. So make sure you've got no sharp objects, that kind of stuff in your bag. Other than that, we just want to make sure that everyone's happy, really. Chloe was saying about UK Black Pride, it's not just UK Black Pride that are involved. We've got Asian LGBT groups as well on the stage. We've got Club Carly taking over our main stage for an hour as well, which would be quite, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so it's a real diverse mix-up this year. It's actually really exciting, kind of where you're going to look at which point on either end of the field. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It sounds brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us. That was wonderful. And thanks to you at home. What a great last show we have had. But it's time to say goodbye, sadly. We've had so much fun talking to all of you on this series. We've spoken to everybody from Paralympians to politicians, from Owen Jones to the extremely popular Mr. Wales. Yes, we've taken some morally dubious selfies along the way, but most importantly, people have had their voices heard. So wherever you are on Saturday or Sunday, whether you're marching in the parade, whether you're partying in the streets, remember all of you have a part to play in Pride. Remember the people who paved the way so that we could celebrate all together. So from me and the entire Pride in London team, thank you very much for joining us. Remember, love happens here. We'll see you there. Thank you and goodbye.